I don't know. It just seems like a lot of people are pissed off at Elon when his primary focus was on just climate change. Then he's like super popular with the climate change cult. And then now he's saying things that are like, hey, wait a second, there's some problems with this climate change cult. And now they're all pissed off. And they don't see that, like, how could you be so crazy? It's like, I just don't subscribe to your cult. I subscribe to this one part that was really important. And like now there's also other things that are important. It seems like if you're a Democrat, of course, it seems like he's losing way more supporters than he's gaining because everyone that you know is in your bubble. And those are the people that he's pissing off. But if you're not in that bubble, it seems like he's gaining way more followers than he's losing.
Yeah, I think the point you made on the his entire arc from really when he started getting super popular was very much the climate change bubble. The climate
Yep.
change, it's important. Listen, and I still agree. I'm very much on that, let's call it bubble cult, whatever you want to call it, that climate change is extremely important because it does seem like a very stupid exercise to put carbon in the atmosphere. 100%. I mean, it's just a logical thing. However, I think there are certain parts of that group that are very, for some reason, they are also directly opposed to the rhetoric and the stuff that he's talking about now, about things like freedom of speech, things like the like being very upset with some of the LGBT stuff that he perceives as harmful to society, some of the quote unquote woke stuff that has been happening. Regardless of how we define those things, it seems like that part of society is also very pro those things that he's anti, and him becoming anti those things is disrupting his own he's disrupting himself.
his own popularity base.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, when you think about it, what Elon is against is what he views to be not what other people agree are, but what he views to be destructive fringe beliefs. Democrats don't think that LGBTQ values and all this woke stuff is destructive fringe. And the whole rest of the world disagrees with them. And he is pointing out the fact that, you have constructed this nice little bubble where you think these are good values that the world should embrace. And the world is telling you, no, we think you are crazy. And that's very uncomfortable.
Yeah. And like the fringe word, I think, is important. I think the fringe terminology there is what I think some people like. For some reason
Chris is basically accusing Elon of siding with the fringe. He thinks that being against unfettered legal immigration is a fringe belief. No, that is a common belief. That is the standard
very
belief.
Common.
And there are only a fringe people. They just happen to be very insulated and very much in power, and they have up to this point had the ability to bully other people into shouting them down and shutting them up when they have disagreed. But this has never been a common belief. And so, fringe is saying, or Chris is saying, that Elon is taking a fringe position that is not a fringe position. Chris is in the fringe on this one, and
it's a fringe position.
It's that dialogue
in Democratic circles.
Yes, it's a fringe position to be against those things in Democratic circles.
That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
Yes, a fringe position to believe those things overall. And that's what, and Elon he's pointing out, like, he's an equal opportunity fringe offender. He will offend
equal opportunity disruptor.
Yeah, and he will offend left-wing fringe.
Yeah. I love that so much. He's an equal opportunity fringe. What is it? What did you just say?
I said fringe offender, but yeah,
fringe offender.
You could call it fringe disruptor or
Okay, that's funny.
Fringe opponent. Yeah,
it's interesting that there are people, and this is like the thing that I'm trying very hard to like judge for, try to be objective about, because what people seem to be very upset about when it comes to his tone on X and sort of how he has quote unquote changed, like the people he's citing, the people that he's amplifying or whatever. What I'm trying really hard to objectively look at is that really wrong or bad, or is that just something that people are subjectively deeming as bad, but the reason why is because for some reason society doesn't welcome dissenting opinions that make him uncomfortable. Like, what is like outside of people being afraid that their stock value is going to go down because people might stop buying their cars because of his opinion, right? What is like the bad thing here? Like, truly, what is the bad thing here? And I wonder how much of that is really impacting the overall discourse when it comes to, like, this is the bubble, right? That's the bubble. So the Tesla bubble are people that have traditionally been super, super passionate about the brand, that have been passionate about the individual, mainly because it aligned with their political views. In some cases, I don't want to say that's a majority, but some for sure. And there is a very loud and vocal part now that is becoming, again, disrupted by what he's saying. But is what he's saying merit enough to say that he should stop? And that's where I'm like trying to be fair, because I'm trying to say, okay. And this is where like people on the other side be like, Elon Kreider, you're such an idiot, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, I am just trying to judge the individual as any other individual. And if I put myself in those shoes and I'm like, okay, do I want to live in a society where if I say the wrong thing is going to get me, it's just going to get me thrown out and people have to force me to change? Otherwise, I'm not going to be welcome into the society. That to me seems very, very wrong. And so the discussion becomes, okay, so is there a level, right? Is there a level where people should not do that because they might impact their business or they might impact the stock price, right? But that only happens if society at large decides that's a bad thing. And thus far, from my perspective, it doesn't seem like that's the case. There's other variables going on with the overall story, but like I think what I'm trying to drive at here, very, very sloppily, is that I just don't know why what he says is a bad thing, regardless if you agree with it or not. Like, why is that a bad thing?
One of the points that Chris is making is not just what he's saying, but how he's saying it, that it feels very antagonistic. And he's not wrong in that the way that Elon is approaching it is somewhat uncomfortable because it's very direct. And yes, there's some element of antagonistic humor in it, but unfortunately, just the way that humans are wired, like if someone comes and tells you, "Hey, Farzad, like that thing that you're doing, I really don't like it. It's kind of annoying. Could you please stop?" Like the majority of the time is going to go in one ear, out the other, like, "Oh yeah, maybe I'll think about that next time," but it won't actually induce any real change in behavior for you, more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone comes up to you and gets in your face and like tears you down in a, we'll say in a military, like a drill sergeant type manner where, lots of colorful language, lots of humor maybe in it in a mean way, like, that will cut right to the exact issue that that person is trying to fix, and you will address it like one way or the other. Either you'll make it like in response to that person, you'll lean more into that thing, or you'll move away from it if you decide that it's true. But like it places attention on the thing in a way that forces you to deal with it. And that's just kind of an uncomfortable fact. That's one of the reasons why, like Stephen Mark Ryan really leans into this dynamic, that he uses his sense of humor and this antagonistic tone to get people to ask questions like, "Hey, wait a second. This thing that I've always just assumed was true, I've never really even thought about that. Maybe it is kind of stupid." Like, "Hmm, interesting." And, for some people it will do that. For other people, they'll just be offended and they'll leave. But either way, like they're not going to just proceed as normal. And so I think that that's kind of what Elon is doing, for better or for worse, because he believes that these things are actually issues. And I don't think he's operating in a manner that's really any different than what he would do in his companies. Like if he believes that one of his employees is doing something that's wrong, he's going to come up to them and he's going to tell them, this is really stupid because of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then the employee
We saw it in
has
the book.
two options. Yeah. Like you either say, no, Elon, you're an idiot because of X, Y, Z, and you don't understand. And if you have the data to back it up, he'll be like, oh, you're actually right. And then, problem solved. Or Elon,
Yeah.
you know what? You're actually right. Like, I don't have any, like, that was dumb. I need to change what I was doing.